to the Hill of Justice Live. I'm Jerome Hill, and as you know, with me is retired Sheriff Victor Hill. If anybody's out there, could you go ahead and please send us some type of comment or message that you can hear us and you can see us well? As you know, this is a live show, anything could happen, so bear with us as we're going in. Today's show is going to be bananas, probably one of the shows that we've done that will go ahead and be beyond what we even talked about in the past. So if you anybody can go ahead and give us a shout out on the chat. All righty, sounds good on that end of it. So without further ado, this is the Hill of Justice Live. I'm Jerome Hill once again, and with me is my brother, retired Sheriff Victor Hill. And we have two special guests with us. One you've seen before, Mike. He's a returning guest. He's with us again, and again, we wanted to go ahead and extend our thanks and appreciation for Mike coming in. But also we have Munoz here with us, and we're going to go ahead and get to the party. And brother, go ahead and handle it. I'm gonna let you go ahead and handle it from here.
Sure. Former Officer Munoz worked at the Clayton County Jail. She was one of the female officers there. And after she saw the show with former Officer Mike, she got in touch because she had a story to tell as well. And actually, it was her idea to invite Mike back. And you know that's the nickname. It's actually Officer Walker, but she wanted to invite him back because she felt that he would be good on the show to verify the things that she's getting ready to share with us. So, without further ado, welcome. How are you? How you doing?
We're good.
Okay, very good, very good. Let's get right into it. You were an officer at the Clayton County Jail, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. And I know you got a lot of information, so let's just get right into it. Some of it I put out on the advertisement that you're going to give us an idea of what it's like to work there as a female and sometimes work the floor alone without any adequate backup. And we've seen and we're getting ready to see some of the pictures of the people that you actually have to work with and everything like that. I think to start out, uh, let's start out talking about an inmate named Matthews. And Jerome, if you get a chance, you could pull his picture up so the public can see. And then
Mhm.
I'll let you just tell your experience and we'll work with there because you got a lot of information to tell. Go right ahead.
So Matthews Devon was actually an inmate who had very bad ADHD. And I got to know him after I had sent him to the hole for being a non-compliant. When I first got released from training and I was assigned his housing unit, he was acting up due to the major had promised him to be an inmate worker. So eventually I had called non-compliant on him. They took him to the major. He yelled at the major, so he got put into the hole.
Let's stop 1 second before because there's a lot of people that don't know. What was he in jail for when you were there?
So he was there on a murder charge, and over the time, he has had so many charges due to different types of stabbings, fights, contraband.
Look, how many people did he stab while he was there? I think I made a mistake. There was another inmate that stabbed someone 20 times, but I believe he stabbed someone 12 times, correct?
He has stabbed about 12 people or more.
Okay, got you. So tell me more about how he's well, not necessarily how he stabbed 12 people, but how he was dealt with or not dealt with during your time there at the Clayton County Jail.
So I wasn't there for the stabbings. I was only there when I was told supposedly he couldn't be an inmate worker. However, because I got to know him after he got out of the hole that he had ADHD, I know that when you have somebody who has ADHD on a lockdown for long hours, they go savage. So I actually gave him the chance, but every time he would only work for me, I would take him out and I would tell him, listen, you can put the inmates on lockdown, you can take them out for free time, but if they tell you no, don't stab them, don't fight them.
Okay, stop 1 second. Stop 1 second. This this is after he stabbed somebody. You told him that.
Correct. So when I was first there, when he had first came out of the hole, I wasn't even aware he was a stabber. I was told he was a stabber after by officers. They never let us know who are people who you constantly have to be looking for stabbing.
Okay.
So once I knew, I still used him as an inmate worker because I felt like I can control him to be a better person while he was an inmate worker. Because if you would leave him inside the section, it was most likely a fight.
All right. So he was a inmate worker by your authorization or somebody else's authorization?
No. So at that time, it was by my authorization. Once I left, since they had promised him to be an inmate worker, he actually became an actual inmate worker with a white jumpsuit.
Okay, I got you. So when you had him work, he was working within the section that he was in, which is maximum
So
security, correct?
So the housing unit, and no, it was not special security. We didn't really have any more special security anymore. Housing unit 2, 4, 6, and 8 was just for any inmate. We would throw them wherever we had room, and that's where it went.
All right. So let me make sure I understand this. This guy's in there for murder, but he's not in maximum security, even though he's there on murder charges.
Correct.
Okay. And in that particular section where you worked the floor, you allowed him to work, but in that section.
So at that time, I wasn't an officer anymore. I was a specialist, and basically, when you are either a specialist or an officer by yourself assigned just the housing unit, you are you got to figure out how you're going to run the housing unit by yourself. So
Okay.
because I didn't have an officer, I can't from if all these doors are brand new except for his section. All these doors are brand new. If I open it from the booth and tell them, hey, take your stuff out and close the door back up, they're not going to do it. They're going to break that door.
All
So,
right.
in
So no, I don't mean to interrupt you, but okay, I want people to understand what's being said. So inside certain units, there are people who are considered in some prisons as a houseman or whatever like that, but they're in the unit they're supposed to be in. They're not allowed, they're not actually an inmate worker where they're given a white uniform or whatever. But it is very possible, even in maximum security, where, okay, in that particular unit, because when I was sheriff, they had to clean their own cells anyway. They had to clean everything. So I get what you're saying, but I think where we're really going with this, what you told me, that I'm very interested in, this guy was actually made a real inmate worker, meaning he no longer had to wear a red uniform. He got to wear a white uniform and live with all the low security inmates. Is that correct?
so that time I wasn't there. I think that would be a question for Walker. When I heard when he became an actual inmate worker is when he was given even more of the ability to distribute around the jail. Because he did get a lot of officers. He got paramedics Parks arrested, but somehow every time these officers were arrested because of him, their charges disappeared like it never happened.
All right. I wanted to go ahead and one of the comments on there was they're confused if weren't you the one who got caught bringing contraband into the inmates like candy or something like that.
So that is incorrect. At that time, I had my own housing unit. I was assigned housing unit 4 as a specialist. I was there to watch over 2 officers.
Mhm.
That time, before that, I was in the hole working, and we get assigned an electric flashlight. When you use it all day and then you go and you charge it, the flashlight actually gets hot.
Mhm.
So at that time, I paid no mind. I put it back into my bag, and
Mhm.
I went upstairs to housing unit 4 to assist with them counting. So when I did that, that day I had a lot of candy in my bag. I put the flashlight there. I went to take out one of my bags of Skittles, and it was warm. So I just put no mind to it. I put it inside the trash. I took the trash out and I put it inside of the booth, outside of the booth. And then I never alerted any inmate that it was there. I never told any inmate to come and pick it up. Eventually, there was 2 inmate workers. They were going to, one of the 2 was going to pick it up. So it looks like once I put the new trash back there and I sat down, it looks like when the tallest one that was there came to pick it up, when he was transitioning to the back, he ended up taking the candy out. So within less than 10 hours, I was called into internal affairs. And they asked me, I told them Yeah, I threw it in the trash. Did I know he was most likely to take it? Yes, it is normal for inmates to take out trash out the bag. I've seen inmates before where you can eat your food halfway, throw it in the trash, and they'll take it out and eat it. So
All right.
eventually, that's what I was terminated, but that's not really what I was terminated for.
All right. So let me tell you what I want to get to. And thanks for the explanation, and thanks for being transparent with that. Uh and Mike, this is what I need your help with. This inmate, do you ever have any knowledge of him actually becoming an inmate worker? Like an inmate worker?
No. Matthew should have been in the cell. My opinion on 23 lockdown. But sometimes, a lot of times when he been running that floor housing in the six for so long, an officer come up there and they just going with the next officer was doing. But no, Matthew should have been in the cell on lockdown.
Got you. Now, he stabbed 12 people, correct?
Right. Well, I have never responded to a stabbing where he stabbed somebody, but he was good at ordering the stabbings, ordering attacks on officers. But have I responded to a situation? He was most times smart. So anytime a stabbing went down, he covered a camera or he done something. But no, I have never responded to him being the target of a stabbing. But he has ordered a lot of stabbings. Yeah.
Now, going back to and I know I call you Officer Moon for short. You actually sent us something where he was charged with stabbing people. Is that correct?
So he has multiple ones where it says aggravated assault with a deadly weapon or just
Mm-hmm.
plain aggravated assault. But keep in mind, Clayton County does not always charge the inmates when they stab. They just take them to the hole.
Okay. Okay, got it. So go into more details of what you told us about him. Is he in? Is he in? I got you. And this where the charges are now. So my understanding is he in the jail now or out of the jail now? And if
No.
he is, okay, go ahead.
So in August, I got a call from somebody who said he was about to be let out and his charges were about to be dropped because he got stabbed and he almost died. However, about a week ago, somehow, I don't know how he found me, but he followed me on Instagram. So when me and him spoke, he had texted me 90K out the door. I'm thinking they gave him 90K as a settlement for being stabbed. So I had responded, 90K isn't even enough for being one moment away from dying. Then he texted me, I was nowhere near to dying. Did I get stabbed? Yes. But I was nowhere near to dying.
Don't we have a picture of that text with the 90K? Jerome, can you bring that up? So he texts you. Now, I got to ask this question. Is this a person you communicate with on?
No.
Okay. How did he, so he contacted you on Instagram after he got out of jail?
Correct. Now that he's in the free world.
Okay. Okay. With any communication with y'all before then?
No. Like after I was terminated, I never saw him again.
Okay. So he gets out, he looks you up and texts you?
Correct.
Okay. So then he texts you and what's that? A Cash App? Tell me about that.
So when he told me is to pay his way out, he also sent me a video where he had an ankle monitor on. So I asked him, why do you have an ankle monitor on if they're supposed to dismiss all your charges? Then he's like, just hold on, let the story play. So when I looked at his file, you can actually see
Okay.
here, in March, he had $87,000. So I have to believe he paid the $90,000 to get out.
All right. So basically what you're saying is now this 90K, how did he make this 90K?
So all of this time, he worked with several officers that would bring him in the contraband and he would resell it. So another thing too is inmates pay officers or specialists to let them know when a shakedown is happening. So
how do they pay them? How do they pay them?
So different ways that I've heard is Cash App, Zelle, I don't know any other way because really inmates do have cash in the jail that comes from intake, but not every single one of them have cash. So the only play the most thing that I saw getting passed around the jail was Cash App names.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Tell us more. Tell us more. Give us an inside look. And again, we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate you being transparent because we're getting to hear another side of this that I never thought we'd get a chance to hear. But go ahead.
So the thing is, not only is this inmate out, this inmate was a dangerous person. For what I saw, Mike's Walker had actually said that he beat his murder charge. But if you go and look up his name, he actually never beat his murder charge. His murder charge is still pending. So he shouldn't be out. And then that's when I was reminded that in December, 2 days after I was terminated, paramedic Parks was arrested. And he was even put on YouTube Live, their first appearance. He was given a bond. I heard he went to housing unit 7 like if he was a regular inmate, and he eventually bonded out and left. But now when you go look up his name in court, it's as if it never existed.
So tell me what you're trying to say exactly. Tell me, because imagine someone's listening, they don't know anything about a jail. Tell me what it is that you saw. That Tell me what you think is going on. Just be straight up with it. You've been straight up about everything else. You've been straight up about the Skittles. You've been straight up about Instagram. Tell us exactly what is going on so the layman can understand it.
So the corruption is much more bigger than just regular officers bringing stuff. The corruption goes all the way up to the sheriff through the whole chain of commands.
Okay,
A lot of
now,
people
and
are
I'm not saying I disagree. I'm not saying you're not correct, but break down why, because we're talking about, we just don't want to throw nothing out there. I know you saw it. Tell us exactly what you saw and why you feel that's the case. Because
so
we want to use the word allegedly if we don't know for sure. You get what I'm saying? But I'm not saying you're incorrect. But tell me why you say that and bring it to truth. You bring truthful thus far. Go right ahead.
so when I became a specialist, a lot of people were saying I was very friendly with the inmates, but that wasn't the case. I was playing the game inmates play. So eventually, inmates got to trust me. Inmates started to tell me what officers were doing it and how it was being done. A lot of people like Matthews. Matthews personally had the major's number. He personally had the sheriff's number. All these inmates had people's number and their connections.
Okay, stop 1 second. He got the sheriff's number, so he has a phone.
Correct.
Okay, and tell me how you know he had the sheriff's number and who else number and how you know they had their number.
Because they told me. And
Okay.
one story that I could say back it up is the story that Walker said that as soon as they put an inmate in the hole, they told him, hey, let me do one phone call and I bet you'll have to take me out. And then Levon Allen calls and said, hey, let him out. So who did he call? It had to have been the sheriff for the sheriff to call in the next 5 minutes.
And the sheriff called who in the next 5 minutes?
So that was Walker's story.
Got you.
I think she's speaking on the whole when sheriff called down to housing at 5 about an inmate that I locked up in the hole.
Got it. And the only way I could have gotten to him is if this inmate had called or whatever. Okay, I got it. Okay. All right. So as we move forward, let me tell you something. This is very interesting, and it's very interesting. And we're honored to have you on the show. I think I even saw a guest that said something interesting. It says that at least you have the you bold enough to come on the show and that you would have the knowledge of it. And I think you've already acknowledged you're not coming on the show saying, hey, I'm 100% what right, but I know what happened because I was there. Is that correct? That's fair to say.
Correct.
Okay, good. And I think what this does is give us a insight of even when you're well-meaning, why it's very, very important not to be friendly with inmates beyond giving them orders, because when you do, all type of things can happen that can automatically put you in a bad way. And that's why I used to always say, you know, inmates are not our friends. And anytime someone tell me, okay, an inmate says, okay, well, I'm cool with somebody, I always knew there was a danger there, because anytime you talk to inmates beyond giving them instructions on what to do, I'm not saying that you got to yell and scream at them or whatever like that. And sometimes you do have to, if we're going to be honest. But anytime we see relationships like this come, then we end up with a jail with complete chaos and danger like what we got here. And somehow, some way, we got an inmate that's there on murder charges, that's given a lot of free reign to move, not just by you, but other people. And as a result, stabbed at least 12 people. And as a result, we don't see anything with him being held accountable. What's
Right.
really interesting to me is this Cash App, when he sent you a picture of the Cash App with 90 some $1,000 on it. That's something that I'm glad you brought to this attention, because I hope if the right people are looking at this, that's something that needs to be investigated and traced, because if an inmate has that amount of cash on Cash App that he controls, he can pretty much control the facility. He can control officers that are susceptible to needing money. He can control other inmates, but that's a lot of cash. Jails don't allow inmates to have money, and that's for a reason.
Right.
And but when he's controlling that type of money, then that's what we see what's going on. Go ahead, Walker. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think most important is just to speak on all this, or why this is a problem, why this inmate still out have a phone, why he's allowed to work the floor, is to go back to the training and the folks that they're hiring at the Clayton County Sheriff's Department. You go through your orientation up in the hallway, and before you go to any jailer school or before you do anything, you threw down in the hall, uh, and they're not, anybody's threw down in the hall. So this inmate's allowed to run when you put an inexperienced, I'm not speaking on a specific officer, but you put an inexperienced officer down, and this inmate has been running this floor. This inmate has 80,000 and on Cash App. He's allowed to run the facility. He's allowed. Some of these officers can't tell him no. Some officers won't tell him no. And he's allowed to basically run a gang, a RICO active gang. So this inmate was down in Housing Unit 5, which is the whole we was running, in a cell 23 hours a day. And, he was the most compliant inmate, ate his food, he wore his jumpsuit, he done everything right, But he go back up to the housing unit, and, I can't even speak on what he did at Housing Unit 6, because anytime we walked up Housing Unit 6, he nowhere to be found. They went hide in their cell and do it. But like I said, anything he done, he ordered hits, and he kept basically Wolfpack or good officers or strong officers out of his cells or out of the pod. And it was a pod with Section 3, I think he was in, Housing 6, Section 3, where it was just 4 inmates in there, him and maybe 4 or 5 other inmates. And they wouldn't allow nobody else in there. But not only was this allowed by officers on the floor, but this was allowed by people upstairs as well. And he was such a nuisance that this bond, which I thought he beat the murder charge, but he was allowed a bond where the command allied on his behalf to get him a bond to get out of jail. So just go back to speak on the folks that, is there at Clayton. It's a bunch of people with long criminal history longer than the inmates in the jail.
Right.
So
Right. And so if he's responsible for about 12 stabbings, that means nothing was done after the first stabbing to secure him properly so that nobody else could get stabbed also. So there's 2 things I want before we move on to the next subject that I want to come out of this. And I think everybody has a legit point. I'm seeing the comments. But the one thing I want us all to think about very, very clear. Let's not be hard on Officer Moon. And let me tell you why. She's not saying she was right. She's not saying that she should have whatever like that. But what she wants to do is give the inside information of what actually occurred. I'm sure she's learned from this situation. And if she ever gets in a situation again, she'll learn that I'm not going to be ever friendly to an inmate again as well. And so basically, I think she has a story to tell. She and I have spoken. I think we all know I don't believe in being friendly with inmates. And if she had worked for me, she would have been disciplined. That's fine. But what she's given us is an inside view that we would never have. Like we would never see this cash app with this inmate having $97,000. We would never have known about this other stuff and these connections. And that's why it makes this so interesting, because it kind of like reminds me when I was a detective, I actually got to talk to people who were in the scenes or whatever like that. And then they gave us an inside view that we wouldn't have. So anyway, let's keep moving on to the next. There's something else you want to tell us about Moon, and
So
let's move
let
on
me
to the
say
next.
one more thing.
Sure, go right ahead.
When you are an officer over there, because of the amount of shortness of staff that you are put by yourself, you have to be nice to your inmate worker. Your inmate worker got to go to medical, you got to take them to medical. They got to go get their whites as their benefits, you do it. Why? Because if anything happens, your inmate worker is normally who has your back. So that was me. I
Now let
always
me
took care
stop
of.
you there. Let me stop you there. You're right, and under the conditions you were working in, you're absolutely right. You probably need someone to have your back. The way we had the jail, we didn't need inmates to have our back because they had no control. So I sympathize with you on that, because you're in a dangerous situation. So you're thinking, okay, well, I need to have a rapport with these people. If the jail was ran properly, ain't gotta have a rapport with anybody. They just follow instructions. That don't mean they're being tortured. That don't mean whatever. But you're in a unique situation because you're in a situation where the jail's already out of control. So you're trying to survive. So that's understandable. I'm not trying to make excuses for you, but I understand what you're saying. And under those circumstances, I get where you're coming from. But if that jail was ran correctly, you wouldn't have to worry about an inmate watching your back. The only
It's
thing you
not
need to worry
only
about, yeah,
that, the
exactly.
inmate worker was the officer. Because we were in a booth by ourselves, even when I was a regular officer, we had to count on the inmate worker to do sanitation, run free time, make sure they put up the bottom tier, let the top tier out, make sure that those doors don't work. We had to count on our inmate worker to do the feeding by themselves because we just didn't have people. And that's the only way that we could do it, because they said to call a sergeant. Okay, but if I wait 2, 3 hours for a sergeant to come and take care of all the other housing units, by that time, food was going to be cold. When the sergeant came, the inmates were going to take their anger off on them onto how long they've been locked up. So that's
I get it.
basically
I
what it
get
was.
it. No, no, no. I get it. And I hope you understand that I get it. I'm just making the statement that if that jail was ran correctly, you wouldn't have to do that. I'm not trying to justify what you did, but part of it is a situation that you were put in. So I get it. And I get exactly where you're coming from on that. Let me ask you this. As a female officer working there, uh, because as a female officer working there, was there any type of inappropriate things to you or other females that took place from inmates, officers, or higher ups? Was there any of that you could speak on?
So as a female officer, no. When I was an officer, I didn't have to be scared of inmates. I had all the training and the weapons that I needed. I did never go to jail school, that is correct. But if you are an officer that has good officer presence, you have control of your floor. If you have control on your floor, you could tell by the amount of times that you would call a non-compliant, that you would call out a fight, call out a stabbing. If that's not happening inside your housing unit, you have a good officer presence. However, there was other female officers that you can tell was scared. We did have 4 officer involved situations in the female dorm where they keep telling us we need to be 2 people on the floor. However, they never gave us 2 people. Some females would get tired of waiting. So when we would go and risk it, we would end up getting hurt. So I was one of them that ended up getting into an altercation. I was not hurt. However, the female inmate was OC spray. In the other 3 occasions, those officers were hurt, and the way that the responding officers responded to it was they had to end up tasing them.
Okay. Did any other female officers get hurt?
Yes. So the first occasion that we had within that 1 month was Officer Carter. She was feeding, and one of the females that were admin just was able to slip out the room, jumped on her, and she was getting attacked. However, there was another female that was loose. She came and she helped her. By the time we got there, she was able to put her in restraints because that female helped her. After it was my occasion, then we had a wolf pack. I don't know what had happened. All I
What's a
know is
wolf pack for those? I know what you're talking about, but no one's going to understand what a wolf pack is.
so
What's a
Wolfpack
wolf
used
pack?
to be CERT. CERT is supposed to be the responding team for fights and stuff that would respond with more experience than a regular officer. So she
Okay.
was CERT. She was up there feeding by herself, and the same thing happened to her. And then we had another female officer who, I don't know why, but she told this mental health person that she was getting out today. She knew it wasn't true. She left her in the day room. So later on, I'm trying to put her up. She doesn't want to go up. So I went and told her, and then she's like, it's okay, I'll put her up. When she went inside the section to try to put her up, she put the first handcuffs on her from the front, and she was working her way to the back. And when she did, the inmate swung the handcuff and then was pulling on her hair. That was one situation that Walker had to respond to, where they ended up tasing the inmate.
Okay, got you. Let me ask you this. So you've worked both housing units. So do you believe that female officers should work in in housing units where it's all males?
Yes, as long as you know how to have control of them, because I rather work with males than females. With females, I had a much more harder time controlling them. They're more needy. They was more, I don't know, females was much more harder to control than it was males. And
Oh,
all of us who worked in housing unit one with the females would say we rather take the risk with the stabbing and work with the male.
so you'd
Females were
rather
most
take
likely to fight us than a male.
okay than a fight than a male. Okay, okay. And did you feel that when you were on the floor by yourself that they were listening to you? Because I remember you said you needed some inmate to watch your back. So as a female watching all males without the help of other inmates, which we know that doesn't work, because you basically said that. What's your opinion on that?
So male and female, it doesn't matter whether we were a male or a female. Anybody
Hmm.
who treated their officer right, when it was time to go do head count, the your inmate worker normally comes with you. Like one of them was Otterbridge. He guarded, I saw, he guarded me. He guarded Officer Dominique, that was a male. He guarded Officer Fisher, that was a male. When we would go do head count, they would actually pull the doors open for us. So that's how we knew our inmate worker was with us. Now I did see with one of the females, he did not go inside the section at all. I have no idea what type of beef they had, but you will know if your inmate worker is with you or not. Normally, all inmate workers go with you to do head count.
So you're saying an inmate would help guard officers while they were doing their duties.
Correct.
All right. You don't see anything inherently wrong with that. I'm not saying that's your fault. You're not in command, but in retrospect, do you see something wrong with inmates doing the duties that guards should be doing?
So it
Guarding
is
guards.
wrong because inmates knew how to do our job. An inmate never worked in the booth, but if we had a deputy in there and the deputy didn't know how to open the door, an inmate can tell you how to do it. If a person was dangerous and you didn't know about it, an inmate will come and tell you about it.
Right. But
Inmates
don't you but
knew.
don't you think if the jail was ran correctly, an inmate shouldn't have to tell you that. That should be something told by the sergeants, the officers, and there should already be a protocol for that and making sure that these guys only dealt with if it's a two-man team or that they're only allowed to come out in certain interests. So there shouldn't be inmates saying, okay, we need to open these doors, we need to do that. You agree that that's dysfunctional to begin with.
Correct. I don't think inmate workers are really not supposed to be inside the section unless everybody's put up and they're cleaning.
Okay. Okay. Jerome, you got anything?
I mean, it really comes down to this, everyone. You can't have command of the jail if you have weak leadership. This was not even, not only was this piss poor leadership on all levels, um, you're lucky, Moon, that you haven't been, you're still with us. The truth of the matter is, in other jails, you probably, and it's going to get to that point, but in other jails, you'd have been done with and completely decapitated. So consider yourself lucky not being there anymore.
So, Officer Moon, I know you got some other information that you like to share with us too. And again, please, we're happy to have you. We're not.
Right.
I hope you don't feel like we're criticizing you. Okay,
Right.
but we got to be true. We got to be truthful. I mean, being truthful, I would have fired you. But the information you're giving is good information, and you're giving us an idea. There's a lot of things that happen, and that doesn't excuse the officer, but there's some things that just ain't gonna be allowed to happen anyway.
Yeah. They
I'm
set her
not
up to
gonna.
fail. Let's be
Yeah. I
honest.
mean, you were set up for
Mhm.
failure.
That's what exactly what happened.
I wouldn't allow a female officer to be working the floor
Hell no.
by herself there, and I wouldn't allow inmates to even be able to talk to you anyway. And if I caught y'all talking, y'all would have been done. So a lot of that comes from leadership. That doesn't absolve you of everything, but you were put in a bad situation. So we understand that. So
So the
that's why I
talking
think
didn't
go
happen while I was an officer. While I was an
okay.
officer, I had no time to talk. I would normally be by myself. Yeah, the inmate worker would follow me, but I wouldn't pay no mind to it. All the talking started just the last 2 weeks that I was a specialist. While I was an officer, I didn't have time to talk to anybody. I was busy because first I was always called in at 1, 2, 3 in the morning to come assist with feeding. My shift doesn't start until 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. So after
Hmm.
I'm done with feeding and doing cell check, helping everybody out, I had to go to roll call. After roll call, okay, I was assigned one housing unit. Me and whatever officer I was assigned with found out how we was gonna work the floor. If we didn't have an extra officer, of course, the inmate worker would work the floor. Um, After that, after 2 o'clock, I was always called, hey, can you stay and help run intake? Can you stay to help? So I would always stay. I would be running intake. I would be going to housing unit 7 to help out orientation.
Hmm.
So at that time, I would always be so busy. I didn't have time to speak to nobody.
I get what you're saying, but what we're saying, Jerome is saying, is that you're put in a situation where you're already set up for failure.
Yeah.
So we understand that, and that's not absolving anything. When I say that, we've spoken, you've sent us the information or whatever. I'm just saying that it's giving us a look into the culture. Uh, some of it you were put into it. Some of it, well, if it was up to me, I'd wipe everybody out that's probably there right now anyway. In order to get some people in that could do it right. But I think when you hire people and they don't have the structure, it makes things acceptable to happen like this. That's not criticizing you, and that's not saying that I agree or whatever. I think you have been a person that's accepted responsibility, and that's my understanding. Tell me this: with all that's happened, I think what's so interesting. Tell me your main objective of what you want to get out today. We want to get that out for you because it took a lot of nerves to come on this show, which I admire, knowing how you left and everything like that, because you would be criticized for that. Tell me what exactly it is that you need the public to know and why you said, hey, I want to be on this show and I want to get my story out.
So when I heard Walker talking, I said, if he went on, why can't I go on and say all of the stuff that I knew? Because I don't even work there anymore, and there's a lot of stuff that I knew. I
Hmm.
knew first there was a lot of staff who had criminal charges that shouldn't be working there and got it. I know there's a lot of staff that have broken the rules and they're treated different because of their family member. Like I heard Officer Clark was one of the ones that was hired. He actually took candy and gave it into an inmate's hand. And he was never terminated or anything. We have our 12 officers that were terminated for letting out an incorrect inmate, which never made the news. But these officers went and did their head count. We had two Browns in one section.
Mm-hmm.
That that female officer went inside there, did her head count. They called one of the Browns. Of course, she had her inmate worker go and get him because she was in the booth alone. So when she came, she gave the inmate the paper. The inmate made it to lower release. However, the sergeant failed to confirm who he was, his fingerprints, property failed, and the bonds people who were doing paperwork failed to confirm. So he left with the wrong inmate's property. 4 days later, when the officer that is normally working that housing unit does the head count, he realizes the Brown that's on his list is not the Brown that's inside. The Brown that's inside is the Brown that should have been released 4 days ago. And the Brown that's in here is the Brown that's on this paper is the one that was released instead.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think they should have been terminated, or are you saying that they should have been terminated, or are you saying there's a reason it happened?
So the sergeant, the property person, and the person who did the paperwork should have been terminated.
Okay.
However, the officers that cleared the head count, I don't believe should have been terminated. If anything, should have been suspension. Because one, all of these officers that were terminated, they did have a Brown in their list. If we go inside a section and we have two greens, of course, we're going to ask, what's your first name? We're going to ask the other green, what's his first name? But if there is only one green and I go inside the housing unit and that green tells me green, I'm going to automatically assume that is the green that's on my list.
Let
And
me
they,
ask you this. No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So basically, you're saying they were wrong. You just don't agree with the level of punishment, but you do agree that it was their actions that caused this inmate to get out. Correct?
no. The ones that just cleared the head count, the officer that just sent him to lower release, not that much. Because tell me how when James Beasley left the hospital
We don't know who
and
James Beasley is. You're talking
so
like everybody knows who you're talking about. So you gotta
so
help us out.
James
Who's James Beasley?
Beasley is the inmate who was taken to a hospital and he ran away from the hospital. Later on, he went and he hijacked a car.
I'm familiar.
So, according to the investigation, supposedly the officer had fell asleep and the inmate took the handcuff key, took the handcuffs off, and left. However, that officer let a whole inmate out and leave. She was still working like nothing happened. She was never terminated. So why were these other officers terminated and they're not even the ones who let them out the door?
I got it. I get your point. So what your point is there's some folks, you're not saying that they weren't slack, you're just saying that some of them you think the punishment didn't rise to termination, but they were slack, and then you're saying there are others that allowed, that there are others who've done the same thing and they haven't been punished at all.
Correct.
But you would agree that they all needed to be punished, whether you agree with the level of punishment or not. And then there's some folks there that went unpunished and they should have been punished as well. That all of them probably should be gone. Does that
Correct.
make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got it. I got it. I got it. All right. Well, Jerome, and I want you to come in on this, and Mark, I want you to come on this too. And I saw a comment that I thought was profound. There's so many moving pieces here. That doesn't absolve these officers. The one that you said that we never heard about, what that person that was let out of jail and they were fired, what was that person charged with?
Murder.
Murder. So there's a murder that got out that never went on the news. Let me tell you what I'm getting from you is this, and I get your side of it too, is this. There's some things that you bringing out that I hope really gets out. Okay, there was another murder we don't know nothing about that got out, and some people got terminated. Very interesting to me that never made the news. Very interesting to me that the guy who's a sheriff now didn't want to put it out and hid that. Now, here's where you and I part ways. He probably should have fired all of them, right? So I can't fault him for that. All right, but the fact that a guy that got out for murder, the public knows nothing about, the news knows nothing about, and that's being hidden, I think that's a serious issue, because the time that this guy was out, he could have done something else. But I see that there's a need to hide stuff like that. Another thing that you and I agree on is this: even if we don't agree on the level of punishment, I do agree with you that if there are other people there that's done the same thing that you've done and they've done, they shouldn't get a pass and you get terminated as well. I agree for that. If you do for one, you do for all. If you don't do for all, you do for none. So I'm with you on all of that. I think the things that I've heard today, and I'll let Jerome and Walker come on this, that concerns me is a murderer that's allowed free reign, that's controlling $97,000, that was able to get a inmate worker status. That concerns me, whether you did it or whether the other people did it. It still concerns me. That's something I would have never allowed. I actually fired some commanders when I was sheriff because they put a person with murder charges in the inmate worker status. One was a captain, one was a major. They went down to the commission office raising hell or whatever, but I did fire them. I meant to fire them, and I hope they stay fired, even though they may have hired them back for all we know. But what concerns me about this is an inmate having access to this amount of money, uh, being able to be an inmate worker. And I think you're absolutely right about that other stuff where uh, if family members and girlfriends are allowed to let people escape, they should be punished the same way you and other people were. So I'm with you on that all the way. Jerome, Walker, go ahead.
Jay Walker.
All right, yeah. I mean, I agree, 100% agree. I think this is go back to the bigger picture what I was talking about in my very first uh podcast I did. But this is the folks that they or the lack of lack of training, I like to say, which is no shots towards anybody else, but it's the like you said, it's a fall on the training. And it's not it's everybody down there. Most people down there that haven't been there. Like I said, I know six. We had a great officer who's still there that's running it. Who's a female as well. And she was tougher than us. So the Wolfpack folks, they wouldn't put her on that team because she spoke her opinion to commanders or whoever it was. So like I said, go back to the training. You can't take somebody from Walmart or from the store and think they're going to run a perfect unit. They're going to go with when you walk into a jail and a murderer that have stabbed officers is allowed to run the floor. They think that's okay. So like I say, you need a whole new. The sheriff is poorly trained. So I think he was trained well. He just went his own way. He went his own way, and I think that's obvious.
Got it. One thing I want us to cover before we get off, Jerome, I know you got something to say, and I think we got about 13 minutes left because this is going to be an hour show. But one thing I want us to cover while you're talking, and then we'll cover that. There's a picture I want you to show, and that picture shows the female that was just arrested for bringing contraband into the jail. There's a very interesting picture, and the caption under it is very interesting. But while you're addressing what you're addressing, please put that picture up. And then I want us to forward discuss that for this last 10 minutes of the show.
Let me see if I can see this picture. Is this the picture
Yeah,
you
that's
want?
it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's a very, very interesting picture. But you had a comment you wanted to go with Walker, correct? Did you, Jerome?
Well, no. My observations about things is definitely being a correctional officer, detective, police officer, so on and so forth. It is not for the weak, and to have the mental stamina to do this type of job and integrity on top of the wherewithal to understand that you have to be principled to go ahead and do these type of things. Um, it takes a lot. Now, that means that you have to walk sometimes alone by yourself. Those are things that you have to have big shoulders to have. People are going to come after you. People are going to go ahead and assail you on everything that you do, especially if you're principled enough. But the mentality that takes is got to be A plus. And what we see oftentimes is that once that is decayed, and it could be decayed because of the job itself, or it could be decayed because of the leadership that exists. And once that happens, it erodes to what you see today and what you have.
And my point exactly. And that's why I want to bring up this picture. Because like with Officer Moon, and I think she and I see eye to eye on this. While I don't agree with what she did, I honestly believe that if she had the right leadership and the right training, she would have never been even allowed to do it anyway. You get what I'm saying?
Right. It wouldn't have
So,
happened.
right,
Right.
exactly. Now, that's not absolving her or whatever, or the other people we talk about. I think y'all know enough to know about me. I probably would have fired her and everybody else. But I think that's a legitimate point that she was put in a predicament where she wasn't given the training or the leadership. So, case an example, let's look at this picture right here. And it's kind of hard for people to read, so I'll read it for them. The female that's standing next to the guy, the sheriff now, is the one that's either currently in jail or whatever, that's charged with bringing contraband into the jail. This is actually was done in August, and she that picture is because she was being awarded Officer of the Month. So think about this: a woman that just got arrested for bringing contraband into the jail was just given Officer of the Month. Here's what she says. She said, God is for sure in the blessing business. What's for me is for me. No man or woman can stop what I declare and decree and what God is favored. Okay, now I don't question God, so we're not gonna deal with that. But yesterday was everything, and a few of my hearts were there to support me. My baby, my favorite captain. I think it's already been revealed that captain in the middle, she's in a relationship with her, and they actually live together. That's very interesting because this female is bringing drugs into the jail, and she lives with a captain. As a sheriff and having that investigated, I would be highly suspicious that this captain, if not involved, at least had knowledge of her bringing contraband and drugs into the jail as well. And then it goes on to say, my big sister, which is my sergeant, was front and center. My other big sister was there. My cousin, K9 Johnson, and my friend came to support me as well. Last but not least, system is everything, not just for me, but our team, which is the best of the best, Team Charlie. Them showing up meant a lot. I definitely showed up and out because I have a great sergeant, teachers, family. Wouldn't trade them for nothing in the world. Now think about this. This officer is saying system is everything, but it's a system that allowed her to get guns, cell phones, and drugs into the jail. The leadership obviously is the blind leading the blind because they're giving an award to someone who's a major part of smuggling drugs into the jail and saying, hey, this is the employee of the month. Again, this is a person that's living and sleeping with the captain. We can't control that. But if that's in there, either the captain is not dumb. Well, I mean like dumb, but dumb like dumb, deaf, and blind. If you got a person living with you, you have no idea they're in the drug trade, you might not be the streetwise cop that we need in this type of situation. Not so sure about this other young lady. I think Moon can tell us about her and maybe Mike. But what I want to give everybody is a picture of the culture here. You got a woman that's bringing drugs into the jail, but the guy who's a sheriff now actually say, hey, you're an employee of the month. The captain she lives with, hey, I'm here. Hey, you're doing a great job. And remember, based on the show we had before, it's not like they caught this woman. If it wasn't for another family that had an inmate at the jail that they were so afraid he was going to be murdered, something to do with her and some other officer, that they weren't dialing 911 to get a car over there to check on him, they wouldn't have got the information from him that he was smuggling drugs for them. So I want us to think about that and just how crazy that is. With that being said, Moon, go ahead, and I want to hear from Walker and Jerome, and then and we can tie this thing up. Go ahead, young lady.
So for what I heard, so I do know the person on the left that's a sergeant. According to the comments, I'm not sure if it's her sister as in her blood sister or her sister as in a best friend. I do know she was a good person. However, she's one of the two people who were personally strippers for the major.
Okay.
And then not only this, but for what I heard, Lewis Allen was arrested on Tuesday. She paid her bond, she got out. However, she was rearrested Wednesday because they found out that she actually bought in a gun to a housing unit. The gun was actually found and it was taken, and that's why she was rearrested. But
Stop 1 second. Stop 1 second. So I want everyone to think about this. And you said allegedly it hasn't been confirmed, but if this happened, then why doesn't the news know about it? Why hasn't the public been alerted about it? Why hasn't anything happened? A gun in a jail. Remember the last time we had that? That was Fulton County, where one inmate shot another inmate over a drug deal, and guess how the police got called? From a cell phone. So now we see the same type of craziness at the Clayton County jail, which appears to be far more out of control than the Fulton County jail. Keep going.
So it was actually, I had another employee today text me, it was actually a gun. But on top of that, if she went to jail on Tuesday and she bonded out, why is there no record for her on court? If you look up her name or even the other officer's name in court, there is no scheduled first appearance. There is no bond set. If you look at them right now, it said that they supposedly in jail and they have no bond.
All right. Okay, got it. And allegedly, this is the information you got. Confirm she brought a gun, or information you got that.
So that is information that I got from a
Okay.
separate employee now.
All right. And if that is true, that would be very concerning that no one was notified by that, because if there's a gun in that jail, that's everybody's life is in danger if that's the case. Jerome Walker, bring this home with these last 5 minutes we got, and then we could thank our guests for coming with us today.
Got it. So personally, I just want to say, you know, the other two, the captain, which I never had no, actually she hired me or done all my background stuff. So I'm unsure. I just know that, the allegation was they dated, but I'm not sure on with her. I haven't looked into it. And then Sergeant Arnold, that was actually the commander of Wolfpack. So no, like I said, I haven't looked on the other stuff, the allegation. I just know the officer brought drugs in, but I have, nothing bad to say about it. Sergeant Arnold and I don't know anything about the captain.
All right, Jerome, you got anything to say? And then after that, I'm gonna wrap it up and thank our guests.
Yeah, this is all fucking out of order. This. I mean, you got the jail that's out of control. People are going to get killed, and I kept on, and I'm going to say this again. It's not only one of the inmates are going to get killed, but guess what? One of the COs are going to get killed. It's happening. I can go ahead and somebody want to bet me on this, because this is exactly what's about to happen right now. That's all I
I
got to
agree.
say
Yeah.
about it.
Right. Yeah, and we just had an inmate killed last week. That's true. So let me say this, young lady. I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I appreciate your honesty. And I appreciate the fact that we're able to be honest with each other. I think there's a lot we agree on, a lot we don't agree on. But the fact that you came on and you was honest about it meant a lot. I hope also that that if law enforcement is something that you continue to pursue, that you've learned something so you know what to do in the future and do it better, and see what happens when these type of things happen or whatever like that. So we're no one's perfect. We all fall short of the glory. We didn't invite you on the show because we thought you were perfect. We didn't invite you on the show because we thought, well, everything she says is going to be on point. We're all human or whatever like that. But I'm glad you came in because you gave us some insight on some stuff that is absolutely crazy. If an inmate is able to contact you and show you a cash app with $97,000 on it, something is wrong. If that inmate had murder charges and charges of aggravated assault for stabbing people in the jail, and those charges went away just so someone could let him out, something is wrong. Uh, this situation here, if we're giving awards to people bringing drugs, something is wrong. And those things that are wrong, that's not you. I think you put a magnifying. That's what's wrong is not you in that situation. I think you put a magnifying glass on it and gave us an inside look. And it is what it is. But I thank you for coming on the show, and wish you well. I think it took a lot of nerves, and I think you withstood the onslaught that you know you would take coming on the show well, and that shows a lot. And again, I thank you for coming on the show.
I'm going to go ahead and thank the guests, and certainly, my brother Keith also putting up this. We wanted to go ahead and thank everybody and continue to keep on after this live is over. You can keep on commenting on this as it gets uploaded to Yahoo on that end of it. We saw all the part of it, and this is part of the mental acuity that you need to have as an officer too. That you have to take the onslaught from the public, and if you're not willing to do that, then you don't have the shoulders to even be a police officer or a correctional officer. So that comes with the job. So I want to go ahead and thank our guests once again,
Yeah, try
brother.
being the sheriff, and
Yeah, right.
yeah, you just got a less than 1% of what I got the last 15 years of my life and
Yeah.
continue to get. It'll roll off you like water. Trust me, you'll get used to it. But
Right, 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 right. So
go
we
ahead,
want to
Jerome.
thank everyone for subscribing. Go ahead and comment and continue to keep on saying everything that you need and want on that end of it. And then without further ado, brother and Mike, and Moon and Keith, we're out of here.